His brother-in-law had been visiting at the time though. I think I saw a goat man today. Some background info. I live right by a bike trail that cuts into a dense forest that goes on and on for miles. The trail is actually laid upon old railroad tracks, and along the way there are still old pre-1900s buildings lost in the dense forest that still remains unexplored. When I was a kid, I was always deathly afraid to go out into these woods for some reason. Well, what I encountered today has rekindled that fear. This afternoon at around 1 o'clock, I really felt like riding my bike. The weather is so nice now, and I love being alone out in the woods away from everyone, so it was perfect. I pack up a notebook, a pen, always on hand in case of inspiration, and a big bottle of water and head off into the woods. The opening is so tiny against the vast dense forest, you have to know exactly where it is to find it. It always seems spooky and mystical because it's just this black, almost doorway-looking void amidst this mountain of trees and underbrush. The speed down the hill as usual, and in a couple of seconds, reach the crossroads. One goes forward into the thickest part of the forest, the left goes towards the city and highway, and the right goes out into the open, endless fields and farmland with the big patches of forest spread throughout. I sat there for a little bit, took a swig of water, and head right. I haven't been out very far past the fields before, and I have a day to kill, so I keep going and going and going. Past the open fields and the huge pastures, past the familiar broken down railroad checkpoint or whatever it is, past the one single house that lies just outside the trail, past the huge rusting metal bridge. So I'm going and going and going, and eventually I see a beware sign nailed to a tree. Then another. Then a couple altogether nailed to an old busted phone line, and finally a huge wooden barricade that says, "Stay out." Pick related, except imagine thicker and the trail like 20 feet higher than the tree bases. The thing was already pushed partially out of the way like someone had been in before me, and being the rebel that I am, I just had to see what's back there. Something I soon came to regret. So I'm riding again, and the forest is far thicker than before, and on each side of the trail about 4 inches out, it drops right off. Steep as fuck and deadly, that's for sure. At this point, I'm a bit uneasy, as it is completely silent, not a fucking sound. I mean, this is deep, thick forest. Why am I not hearing any animals? Immediately after this realization, I come upon an opening finally. Down below, it's now swampy and dark. The trees are far and few between and rise out of these deep, dark pools of water. I'm creeped out at this point. It's eerie as fuck out here. I'm alone and I'm getting worried. I start crossing this very sketchy old wooden bridge, slowly, and then hear this deep, low grumble and immediately pause. Nothing but eerie, empty silence. Not a fucking sound all around me. I then carefully start again and realize it's just my tire. The thing has gone flat. I have no idea how I didn't realize that earlier at any point in my trip, but I mean, it was totally and utterly dead. Then I heard this dreadful fucking blood-curdling scream tear through silence. I'm teary-eyed and have goosebumps as I tell this. I'm frozen. I have no idea what it is, no idea where it was, and of all fucking times, my tire is flat. A sick breaks and I immediately whip my bike around and started pedaling my fucking ass off. All of a sudden, I start hearing shit crashing in the woods and I don't dare look out there. I'm swerving all over this shitty trail because it is covered in pebbles, holes, cracks, broken branches, and all kinds of other shit that can all totally kill me at this speed. And somehow, before, I didn't see these clumps of white stringy fur all caught on the trees and along the trail. The sounds of something racing through this dense, thick brush are so loud I can hear it over my horrendously obnoxious, flat tire squishing and squashing on the ground as I am almost spinning the chain off my gear. At this point, a million things are racing through my mind. My legs are absolutely burning from riding so far out into the woods and now blazing back on this goddamn tire. I swerve right on the edge of the trail in the sandy, pebbly shit went flying out into the trees, jumped over a huge pothole, and heard another loud-ass scream. That didn't even faze me at this point. I'm just pounding my legs, breathing so hard my chest hurts, and waiting for my tire to explode at any moment and to finally get eaten by whatever the fuck is chasing me. I just missed the barricade, literally centimeters from crashing headfirst into the thing. Finally, I see a light off in the distance. I'm close to getting back on the fields and back towards home. I'm filled with a new wind of energy and kick it into hyperdrive now. The sounds of crashing are now getting softer, slower, then stop. I made it. I finally made it. I zoom right out into the sunlight. I've never been happier in my life to feel the sun in my eyes. At that moment, I just stop. The fatigue just immediately hits me like a wave. I'm dead tired and couldn't move another inch. I turn my head around to look back at whatever the fuck was there. And in the darkness, I see two red burning eyes just staring right at me. I felt my entire body go cold. Then, in a flash, they were gone. I rode back fast as I could, but eventually slowed down and crawled my way all the way back. I downed what little bit of water I had left, and even though it was hot, I wasn't sweating one drop. I was literally frozen from that stare. Did I see a goat man? Tomorrow I'm getting a gun license and buying a shotgun and never going out into those woods again. Fuck, I'm even considering moving into a city away from the wooded areas now. Could you describe it? Did you get a good look? It was tall, taller than me, at least, and I'm 6'2". It was slim and had long limbs, but I could see it was pale under the scattered light that broke through the canopy. And alright guys, that wraps up, and I'm taking a little time off. I woke up to a hooded figure standing above me. This occurred in 2017 and is 100% true. Due to a multitude of factors, including a recent death of a close friend, I was unbearably depressed at this time in my life. For that reason, my family flew across the country to visit me in LA, where I live. We thought it would be nice to visit Catalina Island. When we arrived, it became apparent to us that it was the off-season. It was late November, the weather was cold, and as a result, the island was nearly empty, besides locals and a few straggling tourists such as ourselves. Our first priority was to ditch our luggage so we could explore the island. So we immediately checked into our motel, though that word hardly does the place justice. I call it a motel because all of the doors of the rooms exited to the outside. But in actuality, our room was one of 20 to 30 quaint guest house looking buildings arranged in a sort of horseshoe shape around a walkway, with rooms on either side of the path. The entrance to the motel was essentially one of the points on the horseshoe, and if you walked dead straight, you'd reach the room we were given, essentially on the corner before you have to go right to go further into the horseshoe. So from our room, one path led back to the street, the other further into the secluded maze of rooms. Stay with me. After a day of exploring and having just finished dinner, it was time for the cold, dark walk back to the room. Catalina Island is a decent distance from the mainland, and let me just say, it gets dark. Similarly dark was my headspace after dinner conversation took a left-hand turn and my overwhelming depression got the best of me. I pulled my black hoodie tighter over my freezing ears and walked ahead of my parents to the hotel room, telling them I just needed to go to sleep. And I did immediately. Depression sometimes makes that easy. I was already losing consciousness as they entered after me, drifting off without so much as a good night. I then woke up to my mom saying my name, a harsh whisper. The room had two beds, my parents' bed, closer to the door, and mine, further in the room. My mom's voice cut through the sounds again. She sounded concerned for me. I didn't blame her, considering my mental state at the time. Groggy, I rolled over. What? I asked. As my eyes adjusted to the dim moonlight coming in through the curtains, I saw her face turn towards me. She was surprised to see me in my bed. Her eyes got wide. If I'm in my bed, who was she talking to? We both looked back to where she was previously looking to see a hooded figure in all black standing over their bed. I know this is Let's Not Meet, and you are reading this knowing a creepy thing is going to happen. I mean, it's in the title, but understand how horrifically startling it is to be on an island in the middle of the ocean and wake up to see a hooded stranger looming above you. This moment seemed to last forever. Life isn't like movies, where characters unleash a blood-curdling scream. Sometimes the only thing that comes out is a sometimes panicked and guttural. My mom's words became low and severe as she said my dad's name in a dire voice I've never heard her use before. Then the hooded figure did something so bizarre and unsettling. It didn't advance towards us, but instead crouched in the corner near where it stood. The way it crouched was so absolutely unexpected, even in regards to this already unexpected situation, that it terrified me. It seemed animalistic. I knew two things. The hooded figure had been standing over us sleeping, and it's not acting in any sort of way that I can understand. as opposed to the infinite moment of this figure standing over us a mere seconds ago. The series of events that unfolded when my hulking, ex-military dad woke up happened in an instant. Suddenly, we were out the door, not knowing which way the intruder went. My mom was screaming, "Get him! Get him!" My dad was running down one path of the horseshoe further into the hotel, shouting through sheer adrenaline, "I'm gonna fucking kill you." I ran down the other path towards the street. When I got there, not a sign of the intruder, but it became suspiciously quiet behind me. I ran back to the room to find my dad quietly walking back, his head low. He gets really close to me and I hear him say, "It's a fucking kid." The explanation? Some young teen, tall and lanky, as I am in my 20s, wearing all black including a black hoodie, went into the wrong room. Our room. The one time my parents just so happened to forget to lock the door. My mom woke up when he entered, and seeing a tall person in a black hoodie, thought he was me, assumedly leaving the room in a depressive episode. And when the hooded figure crouched, that was him realized his mistake and panicking. He was scared of us. As I got back to the room, my mom walked out and hugs the kid, who was now crying his eyes out. I would be too if a massive ex-soldier was sprinting after me with murder in his eyes. So to the now traumatized kid from Catalina Island, I look forward to reading your Let's Not Meet of the same event from your perspective. And before we get into Dorothea Puente, the killer grandma. On a sunny city block in the heart of Sacramento, California, there lies a modest bungalow. Soft beige siding, neatly trimmed shrubs, a front porch loaded with flowering plants. It looks like the kind of place where neighbors nod politely and greet you with a smile. Friendly, almost appealing. Given how pedestrian the place looks, you might walk past it without a second glance. But sometimes, looks can be deceiving. You'd never know that the quaint little home was host to one of the most nauseating crimes in recent history. During the mid to late 80s, the residence served as a boarding home for elderly, mentally ill, or disabled tenants, run by caretaker and owner Dorothea Puente. Born Dorothea Helen Gray, Dorothea had a rough start in life. Her parents were both alcoholics, and for the short time they were responsible for her, she was systematically abused, until, at age 8, her father died of tuberculosis, followed shortly by her mother. Having no relatives willing to take care of her, Dorothea was sent to an orphanage. Here, she was essayed. Dorothea kept a relatively low profile until 1960, when, at the age of 30, she was arrested for running a brothel in Sacramento. Over the next 2 decades, she would be married and remarried, taking the name of her first husband, Roberto Puente, who she met in Mexico City. Though she wasn't Hispanic herself, she became a beloved member of the Sacramento Hispanic community. She was known to host charitable events, offering hot meals and donated clothes to the less fortunate. She also frequently offered her services as a translator, helping Spanish speakers in court and with navigating social services. She was so beloved, in fact, her communal nickname was Dona Dorothea, or Madame Dorothea. To those who lived in her neighborhood, she served as something of a surrogate grandmother, kind, benevolent even, with a sweet smile and passive demeanor. But after her second marriage, things started to change behind the scenes. In the late 70s, Dorothea picked up a new hobby, one that did not align with her public persona. She frequented the local dive bars and clubs, but not to drink. She was looking for vulnerable men, old or disabled. She would befriend them, get to know them, and when they trusted her, she would forge their signature on disability checks to cash for herself. At the time, she was also working multiple jobs, first as a nurse's aide, then the manager of a boarding home. Here she had a large pool of vulnerable men to exploit, and she did, in excess. In 1978, Dorothea Puente was arrested and convicted of treasury fraud. She had been caught cashing 34 state and federal benefit checks that belonged to her elderly or disabled patients, friends, and old lovers. For the crime, she was sentenced to probation. Her probation came with strict stipulations. Chief among them, she was forbidden from owning or managing any boarding homes, working as a nurse or nurse's aide, or being in any position of authority over vulnerable adults. So, did Dorothea change her ways? Find a new line of work or a new tactic? To navigate around her parole, she turned her own house into a boarding home. Here, she could operate in complete secrecy. Her reputation as a caretaker preceded her, and with the result of her trial being fairly lax, with no real consequences, social workers were more than willing to place more difficult clients with Dorothea. Even if it meant breaking the law, they figured, what's the harm? She only received probation. How terrible could the crime have been? And furthermore, who would take care of these clients otherwise? These were very difficult clients, and who better to take care of them than the motherly, well-known Dorothea, who was not only willing to do so, but entirely capable and credible. On top of that, enforcement was lax. More serious crimes were being committed all across Sacramento, so with police needed elsewhere and high caseloads for probation officers, Dorothea Puente continued to operate under the radar. In fact, she made a good living of it. So with all of this in mind, in February of 1988, when social workers needed to place a developmentally disabled client by the name of Alvaro Bert Montoya, they came to the woman they knew who would do the best job, Dorothea. Months later, police received reports of terrible smells emanating from her home. "We can't stand it," said neighbors. "There are a lot of flies in the area." The smell in question? Sickly sweet. A rotting smell. As more reports started to come in, social workers Judy Moyes and Jim Wilson were becoming worried. The man they had placed with Dorothea, Bert Montoya, hadn't been seen for some time. Community members too had questioned his whereabouts, but Dorothea explained it all away. He had gone to Mexico to visit relatives, or Bert just up and left. Social workers investigated, and in response, received a phone call from a suspicious man, claiming to be Montoya's brother-in-law, whose name was Michael Obregon. The man claimed he had transported Montoya himself and that he was in Mexico, safe and sound. Later, they received a letter confirming the narrative. But Judy Moyes, his social worker, was not convinced. She had worked with Bert for years and over that time had come to know him personally. He was a gentle and trusting man, but above all, he was routine-oriented. Suffering from a developmental disorder and schizophrenia, Bert relied on structure and contact to function. Bert would never up and leave. Not like this. The whole story was just too convenient. Moyes alerted law enforcement, and after the many complaints made by neighbors about the horrible smell of rotting meat, they arrived in full force to search the property and question Dorothea about her missing tenant, suspecting foul play. Dorothea welcomed them in, offered them tea. The inside of the house was spotless, clean and orderly. Nothing seemed aimless. When questioned about the horrible smell being reported by the neighbors, she claimed it was backed up sewage, but they didn't trust Dorothea. Something was off. So they questioned a resident, John Sharp. At first, when asked about Bert Montoya's whereabouts, John, who was scribbling on a piece of paper, claimed to have seen him 2 days earlier. He confirmed there was a smell like death emanating from the kitchen, but he didn't know the origin. Just as officers were finishing up their interview, John passed them a note. What it said left officers stunned. "She wants me to lie to you." And outside, something odd piqued their interest. There was upturned soil in her yard. Dorothea assured them that the upturned dirt was from gardening, planting flowers and shrubs, but it was too late. After cadaver dogs were alerted by the scent, police got permission to dig. A crowd gathered to watch the team of officers work in the hot California sun, shovels in hand, as they dug for answers. Soon enough, the whole neighborhood would know what was buried down beneath the dirt. Sometime during the excavation, Dorothea requested to go down the road for something to drink. Police obliged, but she could only go with police supervision. She agreed, and they left for a walk. That's when Dorothea slipped away. 1 minute she was there, the next, gone. While officers frantically searched for Dorothea, police back at the residence had unearthed a truly grisly scene. A body, wrapped in a linen cloth. Judging by the decay, it had been there for some time. They had found the source of the sickening smell neighbors had been reporting for months, but there was a problem. It was a woman's body. Whoever it was they had just found, it wasn't Bert Montoya. At the house, law enforcement had accidentally stumbled across an execution site. And where they dug? a mass grave. After some more excavation, they found Bert Montoya's body. Then another. And another. With every corpse exhumed, the truth became disgustingly clear. Dorothea Puente wasn't a murderer. She was a serial killer. In total, 7 bodies were found in the backyard of the house, belonging to people Dorothea was asked to care for, and the government thought they were still alive, because Dorothea was collecting their social security checks. Later, toxicology showed that, sometime after their arrival at the boarding home, Dorothea would overdose especially vulnerable tenants with a combination of sedatives and prescription drugs. Afterwards, she would bury them. The victims were later identified as Leona Carpenter, who was 78 years old, Benjamin Fink, who was 55 years old, James Gallup, who was 62, Vera Faye Martin, who was 64, Dorothy Miller, who was 64, Betty Mae Palmer, 78, and Alvaro Bert Montoya, who was 52 years old. On top of the 7 victims buried in the yard, Dorothea was implicated for 2 more deaths: Ruth Monroe, her former business partner, and Everson Gilmouth, a former lover. But in order to charge her, they had to find her. Police coordinated with neighboring counties, local bus and train stations, and even motels, trying to track her movements. News outlets plastered her face across newspapers and television screens, asking the public for any information on the dangerous woman named Dorothea Puente. Tips flooded in from concerned citizens. Some claimed sightings at bus terminals, others reporting her in Los Angeles under an assumed name. Every lead was followed, every alley checked, until finally, days after she vanished, Dorothea was located. Ironically, in a small Los Angeles boarding home. Calm and composed as ever, she was taken into custody without incident. On the morning of November 17th, 1988, she was flown back to Sacramento. At trial, Dorothea's defense focused on her age, demeanor, and public benevolence. Her lawyers argued that she couldn't have killed these people, and the deaths were either accidental or from natural causes. Prosecutors had a different take. They portrayed a predatory woman with a long history of fraud who manipulated the system, deceived the public, and eliminated her victims for personal gain. They encouraged the jury to pursue the death penalty for her crimes. Reportedly, while her many crimes were being showcased, the jury was baffled by the contrast between her unintimidating demeanor and the horrific nature of the crimes. Because of this, when it came time to deliberate on the verdict, the jury deadlocked on multiple counts. For this reason, on August 26, 1993, Dorothea Puente was convicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Leona Carpenter, Benjamin Fink, and James Gallup. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dorothea Puente spent the remainder of her life in prison, where she died in 2011 at the age of 82 years old. Her arrest and conviction brought long overdue justice to her victims and highlighted the serious gaps in the oversight of vulnerable adults, prompting changes in social services and regulations about boarding homes. While her crimes were horrific, the case ultimately strengthened protections for the elderly and the disabled, ensuring that future generations would hopefully be safe from further exploitation by monsters like Dorothea Puente. Lady buys $1,000 to $7,000 in Apple gift cards with cash every week. I know the immediate thought is she's being scammed, but I don't think that's the case. She's 30 to 40 and seems fully with it mentally. We've openly talked about gift card scams with her, and her responses make me believe she isn't being scammed. If anything, her demeanor comes off more like she could be the one doing something nefarious. She comes in every single week, sometimes multiple times a week, paying in fresh $100 bills from the bank. She only ever buys Apple gift cards. She usually spends about $2,000 to $5,000, but she has gone as high as $7,000 in one day. This is in Canada, in case it matters. When asked, she usually says she does online gambling, and this is somehow related to her winnings, but she's also claimed they were gifts once. Personally, I suspect it's related to money laundering or tax evasion somehow. open to hearing any theories. Alright, let's get into edit 1. Edit 1. Looks like the majority think it's likely she's being scammed. I'll be sure next time she stops in that we sit her down and talk more. I'm hoping she'll be able to show us some kind of proof of her online gambling explanation or something like that. I'll speak with my manager and see if we can bar her from buying any more until she provides that. If anything else comes up, I'll edit it onto this post. Thanks everyone for your input. To expand on her demeanor, here's a description in case it helps. She carries herself with a professional attitude. She isn't interested in small talk or chatting, but she addresses our questions/concerns politely. Her body language is confident and calm, definitely not anxious whatsoever. The only real emotion I see her display is mild annoyance when there's a delay in the process. When we talked about gift card scams with her in the past, she seemed indifferent and her demeanor didn't change. I saw zero anxiety, sheepishness, agitation, defensiveness, etc. It's hard to put into words, but I really get the vibe that she's in the know with this situation, if that makes any sense. The bills are legitimate every time, not counterfeits. She started coming in. This is kind of long and not incredibly scary, but here's a weird experience I had while working as a camp counselor in Minnesota, not skinwalker or Native American shit. Be me, 17. Work at a summer camp in Minnesota. Place is about 4 hours north of the Twin Cities. Northwoods, lots of lakes and not a ton of people. Second year as a counselor. It's a sleepaway camp, so you get like a cabin of 8 to 10 kids for a week with one other counselor helping you. Camp is about 15 minutes down a dirt from the nearest town. My third week into my 7-week stint. Things are going well. Just a few shitty kids I've had to deal with, but nothing special. Co-counselors have been fine too, since everyone is pretty close. It's a YMCA camp, by the way. Praise Jesus. Start of third week, and I get my new co for the week. French dude named Pascal. Like 15 to 20 Frenchies work at the camp because of some YMCA exchange program. Most of them are pretty normal. Pascal is chill, but English is a little iffy. Start our week with no issues, but campers are ages 10 to 12, which is basically the worst to deal with. Dick jokes, cursing, preteen rebellion and body odor, etc. Surprisingly, not that bad. They like us, so everything is fine from Sunday when they arrive till Wednesday. On Wednesday, we do our overnight. Basically, where our cabin packs tents and food and goes camping for one night at a campsite of our choosing that's about 1 to 4 miles from the main camp. I've done it many times, so not really an issue, especially with an older age group. Counselors choose the campsite, so I picked this one named Lone Pine. Never been to it. About 3.7 mile hike from main camp. Run it by Pascal. Him and the campers don't give a fuck. Excited to go out and fish and make fires and shit. We head out right after lunch. Continued. Counselors wear these big ass bags called Duluth packs that have our tents and food. Hike there takes a while, but it's pretty in nice weather. Get to the site. On a small lake. There's so many in this area of Minnesota that if there's no houses on it, probably doesn't have a name. Average size site, but super dense trees around it. Like at least twice as dense as most of the forest in this area. Since I'm a dumb fuck, I think this means more firewood instead of being sus. Set up tents, make fire, pretty average night so far. Catch fish and cook dinner, tell ghost stories, swim in the lake, cheesy summer camp shit. Kids get in their tents at about 10. Pascal has a weird watch and we have a walkie-talkie for emergencies, but that's it for electronics. Pascal and I talk till about 12, girls and France and Minnesota shit, head to our tent and sleep. At like 2 a.m., we wake up to a distant tornado siren. Sounds like a stereotypical air raid noise. If you grew up on the plains, you know how eerie this shit is. I lived in southern Minnesota. Tornadoes were pretty common in the summer here. Not up in the North Woods though. In my 8 years of going to camp, only heard of a tornado warning once, let alone a full alarm. Also, didn't think we were close enough to the town to hear it. Also didn't know they even had one. Either way, Pascal's freaked out because no tornadoes in Paris, pussies. Some kids understand, others don't. We all get our stuff, but leave the tents because I don't want to be out here wasting time if this tornado comes. It's also dark, like way too dark. Everyone grabs clothes and a flashlight, gets single file, and follow the trail out of the site. Super ominous, with no animal noises whatsoever, and these distant sirens and whipping wind being the only thing we hear. Kinda hustling. One kid trips and falls, skins knee. Realize we forgot the first aid pack. I want to keep going, but kid turned on bitch mode. Pascal says he can run back to get it since we're only 5 minutes out. 15 minutes pass. Pascal comes running back with the first aid and a terrified look. Still freaks me out to this day. Dude is fucking white as shit and tosses me the pack and starts speed walking out of there. Kid barely has time to bandage knee. I'm weirded out, but wind sounds odd too. Like, you know when a old tree sways in the wind? That groan, but all around us. No moon, no stars, just this groan and that fucking siren. Can't believe I didn't notice anything off in the moment. As we keep walking out, I get the walkie-talkie and radio in that group is coming back to camp. Silence for a minute. Wind gets creepier, and some kids say they hear footsteps in the woods. Others think they're joking and say to fuck off. I'm still trying to radio in, and Pascal's 15 feet in front of the group, still not talking. Shit hitting the fan. Eventually, my camp director responds. Anon, what's going on? Just get me a van to the entrance to Lone Pine site ASAP. Camp has a van for shit kind of like this. I'm panicking. Director can hear, so he just goes, okay, it'll be there soon. Should have mentioned the tornado sirens. They get louder, but we are walking in the opposite direction of the town. Those damn sirens. We get to the entrance of the trail. More and more kids mention footsteps. I think I heard them too, but hard to tell with these sirens and wind. Still wondering why it's so dark. I spend a lot of time out in the woods out here, but this is different. I radio in and ask where the van is. 5 minutes out. Kids are crying. Pascal is sitting in the road silent, and my radio suddenly goes pure static. I'm freaking the fuck out. Groans of trees continue, and now this one kid said he saw a person running in the woods. I scream at him to shut up. I'm losing it. Van finally comes. We all run inside, screaming, and some kids say people are running around the van. Driver is my friend. Sees my eyes and knows he has to fucking floor back to camp. We get back, but camp is empty. When there was a tornado drill, everyone goes to the bathrooms underneath the lodge because it's safe. We run there, ignoring the driver. A counselor steps out in a towel, just showered. Whole camp isn't there. What the fuck? Camp director heard the noises we were making. Runs out of the lodge, tells me to calm the fuck down. Takes my kids inside, staff calms them down. Notices Pascal, takes him inside too. A few more counselors came, and then they came to talk to me outside. Tell them about the tornado. There's not tornado, they say. System failure? Ask me what side I was at. Say Lone Pine. One counselor whistles. Like that damn you fucked up whistle. Director frowns at me. Tells me I wasn't supposed to go out there. Closed it down for maintenance over the summer. Well, I didn't know that. Tells me we'll sort it out tomorrow. Get some sleep. We all sleep in the lodge because we're scared. Next morning, some parents come to pick up their kids. Lucky bastards. Pascal isn't okay though. He still won't talk, only in rapid French to the other Frenchies. They seem spooked. Pascal goes home basically. Gets an early flight home. Gets driven into the cities that day and never comes back to camp. Frenchies won't tell me what he saw. Only hombre. Thought that was Spanish for friend. No help. Anyways, camp director drives me out the site that day to pick up the tents. Tell her what happened. She nods, believes me clearly, but won't elaborate. We stay out of this area now. Sorry, I didn't tell you. Get to the site. Tents are shredded. Looks like they lost a fight to a wolverine. Director doesn't look surprised. Tells me to clean up. Goes to the fire pit and dumps some shit in there and mutters a few words. I start to say something. She hushes me and finishes her little monologue. Some language I can't understand, Latin or native, I don't really know. We walk out of there in silence. Footsteps. Towards the site. Opposite direction from us. I start to panic again. Director tells me to relax. Get to the van. Basically says don't fuck with this place or say anything to anyone. Won't give me any more info, but doubles my pay for the week. That makes it better. Rest of the summer was normal. Never came anywhere near Lone Pine site ever again. If anyone's interested, they're not stories, most of them, just odd things cuz ran across out on those roads. Takers, or should I get some sleep? Alrighty, let's see. Well, he once saw either a very large alligator or a crocodile basking in the middle of a highway in eastern Washington state. Apparently, it was an escaped pet, but he felt like an insane person when he called the cops to let him know that an animal that does not, and has not for literally millions of years, live in their state was just chilling and basking in the middle of the road. Some random and extremely creepy woman with very pale skin and long straight black hair followed him through 3 states: Louisiana, Arkansas, and Tennessee, usually pulling alongside him and glaring at him angrily from the adjoining lane, refusing to pass or drop behind him, no matter how fast or slow he was driving. A couple of guys tried to carjack a load of paper, literally printer paper. They didn't believe him when he told them how worthless his cargo was, off of him in Gary, Indiana, until he waved his gun at them. Finally, he drove through a random town in southern Illinois in which seemingly everyone was outside in their front yard, doing nothing at all but watching the cars go by. They weren't like completely motionless or anything, but they all did seem to be watching the road very intently, like multiple hundreds of people. He said it was extremely unsettling. I can give more background for any of those if you want. I'll try to remember some other ones in the meantime. The one about the whole town being in their front yards sounds like a straight up horror movie. I'd fucking lose it if I saw that. Right? I mean, to hear him tell it, it was about as normal as such a thing could be. People were out in lawn chairs, some kids were running around, some people were eating and or talking to one another. There were dogs and shit like that. It wasn't like everyone was frozen, jaws agape, etc., but they were all facing the road and looking at it kind of expectantly. He said it felt like he was driving through the middle of an invisible parade. The lady one is legitimately spooked. The thought of being followed or tracked or stalked by something unnatural is fucked. I should clarify, this wasn't a ghost or anything like that, just a weird, aggressive, angry-looking lady. She drove a green car, it had Louisiana plates, and a dent in the back right corner. We think she must have mistaken him for someone else and wanted to pull over. In a way, the fact that it's a real person, indisputably, materially real, makes it creepier than something ethereal, which might be the product of your mind playing tricks on you, but that's just me. Dislike my daughter. To start off everything, I am a widow and have 3 children. But in this post, I'll be focused on my 2 youngest daughters, Leah, who is female 14, and Maya, who is female 18. Fake names, of course. For a little background, Leah was R-worded by 4 men back in December. How this incident occurred was Maya threw a party while I was working the night shift, and 4 of the boys that were attending at this party assaulted Leah. It's been devastating, to say the least. Leah has lost all of her spark and quit cheer. Plus, on top of that, she opted out of her freshman year by just continuing to do courses online. She doesn't sleep in her room anymore but with me, and just wears my late husband's hoodies all day, and I feel so helpless as a mother because I don't know how I can help her. Throughout the investigation, a lot of things came out regarding Maya's part in this. She did not set up her little sister. However, I feel like she severely neglected her, and all of this could have been avoided if she just followed my rules. I never approved a party. I left her in charge of watching Leah, and before you guys say, well, you're her mother, it's not her job to watch your kid. But the thing is, it was her job. I pay her really well to look after her sister while I work nights. It's been an agreement we have for years. Leah is not special needs in any way. The only thing I asked of Maya is that she makes sure her sister does her homework and gets to bed at a reasonable time. The men that assaulted Leah, Maya invited herself, she knew them personally, and knew they had affiliates to gangs and did not care. Instead, what I found out in this investigation was she tried to put Leah with one of these boys, and Leah was not interested. The boy was harassing Leah all night, trying to get her to kiss him. Then Leah had enough and went to her room. and the moment Maya left the house to go to McDonald's, that same boy and his friends went up to my daughter's room and R-worded her. The worst part about this to me is that people that were at the party heard her yelling and did not do anything but just assumed a couple were arguing upstairs. We didn't know what happened until the next morning when the party was over. Having her do a R-word kit was traumatizing for her and probably the worst moment as a parent for me. Then a couple of weeks later, she tested positive for a curable STD. My baby has been broken ever since, even though they did get those boys and all 4 pled guilty because they all had evidence on their phone, but it's still so extremely hard for Leah right now. Maya, on the other hand, has been remorseful, and Leah has no animosity towards her and doesn't blame her. Still loves her sister. But I don't know why for me, I'm so angry at Maya, and I've been really trying to forgive her, but I can't as of now. I can't even look at her without not wanting to lash out. Her prom is next weekend, and I honestly couldn't care less. She tries to have conversations with me, but it's hard for me to show any interest in them. I don't hate my daughter, I still love her, but I just have strong dislike for her right now. I've been reading self-help books trying to learn how to address this properly. I feel like I can't open up to anyone about this in real life. I guess this is maybe a cry for help as a mother. Edit. Thank you all for the feedback. The most repetitive question I'm seeing is if Maya still watches Leah. The answer is hell no. I don't trust her anymore, and it might take years to get it back. I'm on a leave of absence currently. Also, Leah is not in therapy as of right now. She expressed to me that she's not ready for that. I think after the sentencing, she might be open to it. Maya is also in therapy but skips a lot of appointments, and I'm in therapy too, and it's been helping me remain calm throughout this situation and not want to lash out at Maya. But the number one advice that I'm seeing in here that I'm strongly considering is sending Maya to my parents' house for a while and get some space from her. Sorry, quick second edit. For the ones asking if Maya is in a gang, to my knowledge, she isn't. The most I've ever caught her doing was smoking some pot and vaping. I also don't want to think Maya would ever intentionally set up her sister to be brutally assaulted. So I'm leaning towards Maya genuinely was being plain neglectful that night. Also, I feel like it would have come up in the investigation if she intentionally set up Leah. Also, the boy Maya was trying to set up Leah with was 17 at the time. He's 18 now, and the other 3 were grown men. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, therapy ASAP, all of you. And the OP responds and says, yes, of course. I already have been going to therapy way before this all, and Lee, on the other hand, doesn't want to do therapy just yet, and I want to respect her boundaries. Maya has been skipping a lot of her appointments, but she's also in personal therapy as well. And someone else says, wait, she threw a party while babysitting and left? Please tell me you actually enforced some serious punishment there. I'm confused. You said Maya didn't set her up, yet Maya had been trying to get Leah to interact with this boy. And then she left the house? She's an adult. That's honestly valid grounds for getting kicked out. No wonder she's skipping therapy. There's no consequences to her actions. Act a little remorseful and everything is hunky-dory. She still gets prom, still gets all of her privileges. Little sister gets all of the trauma. Has she ever had actual accountability in life? And someone else says, how do you know this wasn't a gang initiation? My little sister was gang R-worded, but the guy who took her to the party and left her there. It was his way into the gang. Are you sure your daughter isn't a gang member now? I was a bad influence when I was a teenager. I smoked pot and did drugs, but I would never leave my little sister alone. One time she called me scared, and I left where I was to go to get her immediately. I warned her about the guy who took her to that party. It caused horrible damage to my sister. PTSD which hasn't ever gone away. She's 34 now. I believe it was also the event that triggered her schizophrenia. Now she just has reoccurring hallucinations of being R-worded her entire life. I would investigate your eldest daughter further. Sounds like a gang initiation to me. And then we get an update a few days later, actually about a week later, and let's get into it. A lot has progressed in the past couple of days, and it would only be right to update you guys on what happened and get some advice from you guys regarding everything. But to answer multiple questions I received from my last post about why hasn't Maya been further punished, to put it quite simply, Maya was arrested the night of Leah's attack. She was charged with felony child endangerment and 2 misdemeanors. The judge was very nice to her and made her pay a $2,000 fine, 60 hours of community service, and 3 years probation. Plus, I took her car, but after this update, I maybe should have given her a harsher punishment. But back to the update. On Thursday afternoon, me and Maya got into a fight. The dispute happened because Leah came to me virtually upset and on the verge of tears, because 5 people messaged her that day, expressing condolences about her attack. Leah had been very clear she doesn't want anyone that she knows to know that she was the victim of the attack. Upon further investigation, it turns out Maya told a group chat of 27 people that Leah was the victim. Leah vocalized to me how humiliated she feels and that she can't ever go back to school next year. I, of course, then go confront Maya about it. She kept saying I was overreacting and that Leah was being dramatic. I tried to reason with her to see how she hurt her sister, and she did not see the issue. She stopped me off mid-lecture from me and said, "Jesus Christ, Mom, you need to let her deal with this shit instead of always rushing to her defense. Leah is not different from other women in the world that deal with R-word. At least they don't make it their entire personality like she does. Also, she's fine. I literally overheard her talk to a boy on the phone last night." It just clicked for me at that moment that she was not actually remorseful at all, and that I just witnessed her mask slip. I just responded with "pack your shit up," and that she'll be staying with my parents until I allow her back. And that's exactly what I did. But the next morning, I got a text from Maya to meet at a therapist appointment that was later that day. Looking back, I wish I had never gone because her therapist, majority of the visit, only saw her point of view. But at the start of the appointment, it opened up with Maya apologizing and explaining her thought process of why she told her friends, and it was because she was venting. Plus, she didn't think of it as a big deal because it's a public case that was on the news, and Leah seems fine with these days. Leah is listed as a Jane Doe and not named nowhere, but I digress. We then get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Maya then tells me in front of the therapist that she feels emotionally neglected by me and that I never seemed to care about her trauma when it came to the situation, which is for her is having to stay in jail for a weekend and losing one of her friends, which is one of Leah's literal R-wordists. I wish I can say I'm joking, but I'm dead serious. We were talking about that for the first 30 minutes. Her therapist was guilt-tripping me for not being more emotionally there for Maya, and that I should try to see her as a mom since their father is no longer with us. But call me an awful parent, but I don't want to be emotionally there for Maya if it involves me having to help her mourn the friendship of the person that ruined her sister's life. The therapist was on one, especially since she kept referring to what happened to Leah as an accident, or that Leah seems happier these days, because that's what Maya has been telling her, when Leah is quite literally high off antidepressants and still scores extremely low on the mental health evaluation. But I finally just had an outburst. Feel free to skip over the next paragraph because there is a massive trigger warning. I get very graphic here, but I'm just reiterating what I said. What I said to both Maya and her therapist was, quote, "I think it's kind of disgusting that the two of you are refusing to acknowledge Leah's trauma in this and keep referring to it as an accident. You spent a weekend in jail, while your sister was in the hospital suffering from something your friend did to her. Ironically enough, if you ever listen to Leah, she has said that friend of yours was the most violent towards her during the attack and was the catalyst for the majority of injuries she sustained, including strangling her. So for you guys to sit here and berate me for not caring that you lost your friend because of something terrible your friend did to your sister is absolutely disgusting. My biggest regret right now is helping you obtain a lawyer. I should have let you rot in that cell and let you figure it out yourself." Maya started sobbing in the office at this point and saying it wasn't fair that I blamed her for what happened to Leah. She told me the only thing she was trying to do was have Leah come out of her shell because she kept hovering next to her at the party. The therapist then interjects and asks Maya, how did Leah respond to her when she apologized? Maya, in such a defensive manner, says, "Apologize for what? I didn't R-word her." Even the therapist was shocked when she said that. And at that point, I heard enough and I stood up, threw my hands up and left. I haven't spoken to Maya since then, and this was Friday afternoon. Maya has been texting me and calling me, begging to come home so she can apologize to both me and Leah. But I don't know at this point. I never thought I would be that parent that will go no contact with my daughter. But I don't know if I can stomach being around her. I can't trust her, and she's not remorseful whatsoever about what happened. A part of me wants to try to make it work for the sake of Leah because she asked yesterday if she ruined our family, and that broke my heart. Leah loves and looks up to Maya, and I don't think she can comprehend at this time that Maya also failed her. I'm just stuck. Or tell me if I'm wrong for not understanding Maya. I'm sorry for the not so happy update. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "She's even more rotten than I thought when reading your first post. Absolutely vile excuse of a human being. She's bordering on pure evil at this point. I have a younger sister, a teenager, and I would burn the whole world down if someone hurt her. If I acted like your older daughter, then I would expect my own mother to kill me on the spot. There is something seriously wrong with her. She doesn't need therapy appointments. She needs a team of professional and experienced psychologists or a psychiatrist to figure out what is wrong with her. This behavior is not okay or normal. I'm so sorry for your youngest daughter. Your big sister should be her number one supporter in the world. I'm so sorry all of this happened. You know what? You need to cut your older completely off. She gave up the right to be supported by you in any way when she not only put her own sibling in danger, but also feels no remorse for her actions and even misses her friendship with her sister's R-wordist." And someone else says, "You are not in the wrong. You want to be there for your children, but clearly Maya cannot take responsibility for the role she played in this. I would like to say that it's maybe her not wanting to truly realize it and acknowledge it for fear of the guilt that would consume her, but it is clear she just doesn't feel remorse. Honestly, I'm so glad her mask slipped in front of the therapist too. Hopefully that gave them the insight that maybe, just maybe, they've been fed lies. Still very weird and horrible for them to treat the situation that way, given what they seem to know already about the attack. Also, I'm curious about your other child. Do they live in the house or near? Do they know what happened to Leah? I'm just wondering about her support right now. She obviously has you, but especially with her thinking she ruined the family, I'm wondering if she has anyone else close that she can lean on. Also, with some people now knowing and there being gang affiliation involved, I'm wishing for love and safety for you and Leah. No one deserves that, especially not a child who is supposed to be safe in her own home." And the OP responds and says, So my oldest is my son. He got married a month before everything went down, and I didn't want to drag him in too much about Maya, because I want him to enjoy the newlywed phase with his wife. Him and his wife are very supportive, and his wife takes Leah all the time for sleepovers or just to get her out of the house. And this is the OP's response to a comment regarding her reaction after finding out Leah was SA'd. And let's get into the OP's comment. The OP says, "So I should say what happened that morning at this point. I come home at 8:30-ish a.m. from work, and my house was trashed, and a couple of Maya's friends were still there. I, of course, argued with Maya for a bit about throwing a party, and I then go check on Leah, and she wasn't in her room, but her sheets were bloody, so I thought maybe it was time of the month and that she was showering or sleeping in my bed. But when I checked my room, I did not see her. I started calling Leah, and her phone did ring, and I heard it come from the closet. It's a walk-in, and I see her wrapped in a blanket like a cocoon. I then shake her to wake up, and she wasn't waking up, and then I tried to unwrap, and that's when I noticed her scalp bleeding and saw abrasions around her neck. So I started screaming, someone call 911, and Leah starts to kind of wake up in the ambulance, and she starts crying, and the first thing she told me is that Maya's friend R-worded her, and that she can't get up because she's in so much pain. When the police and ambulance show up, and I honestly didn't care about Maya in that moment, all I told her was to be honest with the police, and she should be fine. I didn't know what I know at this point. They take her to the precinct, and the cops interrogated her, and after getting a medical report for what happened to Leah, they decided to charge her with child endangerment. I did not see Maya's reaction to when they told her about what happened to Leah. But when she saw Leah, once she got out of jail, she gave her a big hug, and I thought it was a sweet moment. The only red flag that stands out to me from that time is Maya did not cooperate fully about giving names because she said she forgot. Luckily, DNA results from the crime scene and on Leah, which all 4 of the Leah's R-wordists were already in the system for other crimes, one even being on probation, so they were easy to find, and it was dominoes effect after that. And then we get an update 2 weeks later titled, Moms of Depressed Teenagers. What are ways you help them? And the OP says, I know I'm probably not alone with dealing with this, but my daughter, mid-teenagers, has been so extremely depressed. Rightfully so. She went through 2 traumatic events in the span of 4 years at her young age. She was SA'd back in December, and she lost her dad 4 years ago. I just remember when I was young, I felt like the world was against me, and I had both of my parents on my side, and I've never been through an assault, so I can't comprehend what she's going through right now. This morning, I overheard her crying in the bathroom, and I asked her if she was fine, and she quickly said she's okay. It just makes me feel so helpless as a mom that I can't help her or take away any of that pain she's feeling. I can't even fully relate to her because I haven't been SA'd before, and both my parents are still alive. So I feel like I'm a horrible mom because I can't guide her and help her with the situation at hand. I feel like as a mom, I should have all the answers, and I don't. I just know in her head every time I try to comfort her, she thinks, what is this woman talking about? Because I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about 99.9% of the time. So any other moms that can relate, please drop some helpful tips. And then 10 days later, the OP posts, would I be the asshole if I kept my daughter's inheritance from my late husband? And the OP says, I have 3 kids, male 24, female 18, and mid-teenager's daughter. My late husband died very unexpectedly 4 years ago due to COVID. He didn't have a will, but we had a life insurance policy that provided a $360,000 death benefit. As his spouse, I received a full amount. I decided to divide the money 4 ways. I would get $120,000, and each of my kids would get $80,000. At the time, my daughters were both minors, so I told them they could access their full amounts when they turned 18. However, if they ever wanted to do something pricey, I would allow them to use some of their share. Most of their needs were taken care of by me. My son was over 18, so I gave him his share right away. This arrangement was a verbal arrangement, and I intended to follow through with it fully. Recently, however, my middle daughter, we will call her Maya, was arrested in December for child endangerment because she severely neglected her little sister, leading to something awful happening under her care. She had to use some of her $80,000 to pay for lawyer and court fees, which left her with about $65,000. Fast forward to today, and my youngest daughter is still struggling significantly. During her checkups, she scores very low on mental health evaluations and is on high dosages of antidepressants. She often jokes that if she were to tell us or the doctors how she truly feels, she would be put in a psych ward. Maya no longer lives with us, as I felt her presence was doing more harm than good to her sister. She's been staying with my parents for now, but has been begging me to give her the money I promised after she graduated. I've been hesitant to do so. My sister, who is familiar with the situation, believes Maya doesn't deserve the money and that I should use it to stay home longer with my youngest, who will be alone during the day once I return to work soon. With my youngest declining mental health and school being out, I'm very worried about her. Maya is about to go off to college, and I know most of the money would go towards that. However, I'm still very angry with Maya for the pain she caused her sister. I'm having a hard time making this decision. So, would I be the asshole if I kept her inheritance? I'm interested to hear everyone's perspective. Just be kind. Edit, I didn't expect so many comments, but I was reading through all of them. To the ones that are asking what would husband say if he was here, I honestly don't know. That's why I'm conflicted. A part of me wants to think he would honestly say for me to give the money to Maya so she could go to college because college was important to him. But also another part of me knows if he heard the details about what happened to Leah, he would be way brutal than I am and disown her permanently, so it's hard to make a call on what he would want me to do when I don't know. Tiny update. I saw a couple of comments that told me I should ask Leah. I didn't flat out ask her like it was her call, to avoid putting unnecessary pressure on her about what I should do, but she told me, "Mom, I think you should give it to her because I don't want her to be mad at me." She already blames me for getting kicked out. She still loves and cares about Maya. She doesn't blame her for what happened to her yet. The reason why I say yet is because I haven't sat down with her and helped her fully understand. What Maya did to her was wrong, and I'm honestly dreading it. She doesn't know what Maya has said about her, nor doesn't she know the true details on why she was arrested. In her head, she thinks Maya was arrested because she threw a party. And then we get another heartbreaking update 11 days later titled, "My daughter begged me to let her pass away." My daughter Leah has been having a tough time with the aftermath of her R-word last December. This past week has been particularly the worst for us. It started last Tuesday when a sheriff and another official visited our home. They informed us that one of Leah's R-wordists, the one who filmed the assault, had shared the video within a group, and now it's circulating on parts of the dark web. The video was filmed in Leah's room. It contained identifiable objects that revealed where she went to school, and I was devastated upon hearing this news. Leah's reaction surprised me. She didn't cry or show much emotion. Instead, she simply shrugged and said, "I figured," before just sitting there in silence. The officials reassured us that it's uncommon for perpetrators to surface in such cases, but they felt obligated to inform us for safety reasons. After they left, Leah resumed acting as if nothing had happened, almost overly cheerful. I attempted to discuss it with her several times, but she avoided the topic. This behavior persisted throughout the week until she unexpectedly revealed that she had written a victim impact statement and wanted to read it herself in court, rather than allowing the prosecutor to do so. She felt that since there was no trial, only the charges against the R-wordist were known, not the details of what she endured. Her statement is a detailed account of that horrific night, but she has yet to read it to me in its entirety because she breaks down in tears every time she tries. That moment was the only time I saw her express emotion all week, until Saturday night. That evening, Leah appeared unusually cheerful again, and mentioned going to bed early around 8 p.m. I didn't think much of it until I received a call from one of Leah's closest friend's mother. She was concerned because Leah's last message to her daughter was a note expressing love and asking her to check on her. I rushed to Leah's room and found she had attempted to drink a lot of ZyQuil. As a nurse, I knew she would recover, but seeing her wake up in the hospital was heartbreaking. She screamed, "Why couldn't you let me just pass away? I want to die, Mom. I'm tired of feeling their hands on me. I wanted to stop. Please let me pass away." They had to sedate her to calm her down. Following this, Lee was placed under a 72-hour psychiatric hold and subsequently transferred to a mental health facility with peers her age. The staff recommended extending her stay beyond the initial hold, but Leah had been struggling, especially with a male staff member, possibly a psychiatrist, who she says is asking invasive questions about her preferences, causing discomfort. Staff members inform me she isn't participating in group activities and appears standoffish. They even proposed restricting her ability to contact me as a consequence, though I requested they hold off on implementing such measures. I'm uncertain if the current inpatient setting is suitable, given Leah's apparent difficulty adjusting. Her plea for her to pass away continues to haunt me. It's a thought I can't shake. Leah's best friend shared additional details Leah had kept from me. There's a hurtful rumor circulating that Leah let a train be ran on her, leading to her involving the police out of embarrassment. Children can be so incredibly cruel. As far as my other daughter, Maya, I haven't spoken to her in 2 weeks, but I did recently discover why Leah feels indebted to her. 2 years ago, I found inappropriate messages on Leah's phone between her and Maya's ex-boyfriend. He expressed love for Leah and also compared her to Maya. He told her she was way prettier than Maya. When I told Maya, she was furious and broke up with him, but she believed Leah had betrayed her by engaging with her boyfriend, even though Leah was very young at the time and her boyfriend was nearly 18. Maya still avoided Leah for 3 months afterward, and despite Leah's efforts to apologize, Maya still holds a grudge. Leah blames herself for damaging their relationship because of this incident. I'm sharing this to get this off my chest. I've kept these struggles within our family to protect my daughters. I'm exhausted, constantly dealing with new challenges, and unsure how to mend them. Now I find myself in the difficult position of deciding whether Leah is mentally prepared to speak at her R-wordist's sentencing. I fear she'll resent me for this decision, but I question if she's in a stable enough state to handle a potential traumatic event, because these boys actually have character witness. Update. So I read a lot of your responses and I agree. I don't think inpatient is for her. So I'll be getting her tomorrow when her 72-hour hold is up. I'm going to spend the day researching on the right therapist for her that specializes in cases like Leah. As far as letting Leah speak at her sentencing, I'm conflicted at that still. I know I can't shield her from the world, but I just have the biggest fear that my baby will pour her heart out in the courtroom and it will be the Brock Turner all over again, and they somehow just get the minimum sentence. And more information on the psych So I talked to Leah further about what the psych said to her that made her uncomfortable. She told me when I left, they made her sit down with him one-on-one to basically debrief why she was there and what's causing her to have these thoughts, and she opened up to him and told her about the R word. However, he asked her if this was her only intimate experience, and she told him yes. But he kept questioning her like he didn't believe it was her only experience, and saying to her that he won't tell me if it wasn't that she can say it. And she kept having tell him, no, this is her only experience. Then he kept asking about her intimate preference, if she was still attracted to men. And she just told him that she doesn't think about relationships right now. She just said that she felt weird about him asking a lot of questions about her intimate life when it was just those two alone in a room with the door closed. I'm not going to accuse the psych of being a creep, because maybe he was simply doing his job. But I feel like he should have known to have a female staff ask her those questions, or just have a woman present. He had to have seen her chart before he saw her. And update, a little positive update. I got Leah out of treatment center Wednesday, and I took her immediately to a mental health trauma care practice, and she met with the psychiatrist/consultation. She told me she doesn't think Leah wants to truly pass away, but is suffering with extreme PTSD and depression, and that her lack of sleep contributed to her psychotic break. The psychiatrist was also impressed how long she's been keeping it together. I really like the practice, and Leah does as well. It was cute. They gave her a little photo album of the therapist at the practice and let her choose which one she thinks she'll vibe the best with, and met her on the same day because she happened to be in. Her first session with her will be after the sentencing. She's on a sleeping medication now and has been sleeping a lot since she's been home. The inpatient facility was not for her whatsoever. I read the reviews on this place, and it had really horrible reviews. I learned from my coworker. He told me that clinics like that only exist to break down children into not having mental health issues and to act normal. Leah said she didn't shower and barely slept her entire time there. She didn't shower because someone would need to monitor her, and she couldn't sleep because it's apparently not allowed to sleep with a blanket over her face, and they had cameras in a room with an intercom to wake her up every time she did put a blanket over her face. However, she did say that she learned her situation can be much worse after hearing some of the other people's stories. She told me she's grateful for me. Yes, I did cry. I will be letting her speak at the sentencing. I didn't realize she didn't have to speak in front of everyone, and that there's a lot of other options. She's into the idea of a voice memo currently, so she won't get triggered seeing her R-wordist staring at her. Maya randomly came to the house unannounced to drop off flowers for Leah. Leah told her she attempted, and I didn't talk to her the entire visit. When she left, I told Leah Maya isn't allowed here, and I'm really mad at her, and I'd like it if she limited her contact with her. She thinks I'm trying to put her in the middle, which I'm not, but after the sentencing, I will be telling her about Maya's actions towards her and how she was wrong. I was going to give Maya the opportunity to tell Leah herself, but Maya has a habit of telling half-truths to cover her lie. So we will see. I'll update you guys in the coming weeks after the sentencing and after I tell Leah about Maya. And then we don't get an update for a long time. And a month later, we finally get an update on what's happened, and the OP post saying, I'm back with a much anticipated update. So this is a long one. A lot has happened, but I want to start with the positive. Leah started therapy after the sentencing, and she's been speaking positively about it. She said it was shocking that she didn't have to talk about the assault with her therapist, which was refreshing. Her therapist also suggested some EMDR sessions, with her first one scheduled for next week. Her general doctor also cleared her to start cheer again if she wanted to, and recommended she start birth control. I'm unsure about that because I know how much of a toll it can have on mental health. and I don't want it to ruin any progress. We also moved into our new rental, and I let Leah get a kitten. That's her baby currently. I barely see the cat since we got it because she always has her. We also had to trash the majority of Leah's furniture to help her healing process. I was trying to give her the Pinterest room of her dreams, but she doesn't like the stuff she used to and wants barely any color, so it's a work in progress. She also has a boyfriend now. He asked her out on the 4th. He's age appropriate. And I know the kid because I grew up with his dad. So I know he comes from a good family. The only thing I'm worried about is that it seems like she might be becoming codependent on him. If he's not at my house, they're on FaceTime together. And every time we go out, she wants him to tag along. It's been like this since before he asked her out. I'd like to say it's been like this since Maya moved out, but I'm not too worried because I think it's only like this now because it's summer and a new relationship. On the surface, she is content for the moment. In my last post, I received a lot of negative messages because I wasn't doing things fast enough or wasn't telling my son all the details. I almost didn't want to make this post, but I want to preface that I know my children, and they know me. I'm a person who values timing. Before I said anything to my other children, I wanted to make sure I had facts, not assumptions. I wanted to schedule a meeting with the detective who interrogated Maya to tell him everything. So I knew in my heart I tried my best to hold my daughter accountable for her actions. When I met with the detective, he told me he did investigate Maya, but there wasn't enough evidence, even with everything I told him. It's not enough to indict her. So he can only charge her with child endangerment for leaving a minor she was watching in a house with a registered SO. However, he validated everything I thought and reassured me. He also told me that it's estimated that Leah's attack lasted close to 2 hours, during which 2 of the defendants had enough time to R-word her twice. And Maya never went upstairs to check, nor showed any concern while being questioned, which triggered him to arrest her. He also said he investigated a lot of similar crimes, but this case disturbed him because there were so many bystanders that knew something bad might be happening, but they did not intervene. Everyone failed Leah, not just Maya, but he advised me to keep that in mind. I met both my son and his wife before the sentencing. He was more disappointed than upset. He felt it in his gut, but thought Maya wouldn't do it intentionally. My son and daughter-in-law told me they always felt Maya was jealous or threatened by Leah. My son noticed it when Leah got her braces off and started growing into her face, attracting Maya's friends to talk to her more because I guess she's considered the nice sister among these two. My daughter-in-law said she witnessed it firsthand during the bridesmaid dress fitting. Maya refused to compliment Leah, but critiqued her instead. When my daughter-in-law told Maya that Leah would unlock so much potential once she realized her beauty and ignored her bullies, Maya said, "I know. That's why I have to humble her." My daughter-in-law thought it was weird, but didn't think much of it until now. They also told me that Maya blocked them as soon as I threw her out, and now they know why. The sentencing wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Leah said she initially thought it was boring. The character witnesses for the R-wordists were, of course, their moms and dads. One mom said that this was an awful night and that we need to stop spreading more hurt. One dad said his son was S8 at Leah's age and that Leah must have triggered that in him. Leah wasn't fazed by this. She told me she ignored them, but I could tell it bothered her. Leah decided to do a video and read her victim impact statement, and I was so extremely proud of her. All 4 R-wordists apologized to Leah in their statements to the judge, but she didn't look at them. She heard them and felt that only one was genuinely sorry. The others gave robotic responses. 2 of the R-wordists were sentenced to 10 years, but could get out as soon as 6. The one who recorded it got 12 years because of his prior convictions. And the prosecutor told me he might be in there for 20 plus years due to separate illegal content involving minors charges. Maya's friend, the one Leah fears the most, got 14 years, with the judge noting he should serve the full term and not be paroled because he got in trouble for doing something similar in the past. Leah was okay with their sentencing, though she wished they all got 14 years. She'll be notified if they get out early or if there are any parole hearings. Maya was there according to my son, but she stayed way in the back and immediately left after the court was adjourned. Some of the R-wordist families tried to talk and apologize to Leah directly, which was the only thing that freaked her out. Other than that, I think she was fine. While we were driving back home, we started debriefing everything, and I tried to explain the process of what's going to happen next. When we got home, Leah told me it was weird that one of the R-wordists referred to Maya as his friend, because there was no way Maya would be friends with someone like that. My face turned white when she said this. I knew it was time to tell her. So I said, I've been meaning to tell you this. There are many reasons why I'm upset with your sister. She was still confused, so I explained that Maya got arrested for leaving the house, not for throwing the party. She didn't care about that. She was just like, oh, okay. Then I said he wasn't lying in court. He was your sister's friend. And Maya went behind your back that night to try and set you guys up. That's when I saw the moment of realization happen. Leah thought I was lying at first, but when I tried to further explain, it was like watching someone's heart break before my eyes. She cut me off and said, I don't believe you. Maya would never be friends with someone that horrible. I just said she might not have been best friends with him, but she did have some form of relationship with him. Leah responded, Mom, that is really bad if that's true. No one understands how mean he was to me. All day, I had to sit in the courtroom hearing he was such a good person when it's not true. Why doesn't no one believe that? I started apologizing to her at this point, and she pulled out her phone and called Maya. Maya answered with a very cheerful hello, and Leah got straight to the point, asking if she was ever friends with her R-wordist. I honestly thought Maya was going to lie, but she said she was before it happened. Leah then asked if she was trying to get her to date him, and Maya told the truth and said yes. Leah hung up on her before Maya tried to explain herself, and Leah started shaking really badly while typing on her phone. I realized now she was blocking Maya on everything. After she was done, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes and said, Mom, why does she hate me so much? What did I ever do to her? I've been trying to be her friend, but she still hates me. Why? We cried together for the rest of the day, honestly. The next day, Leah told me she's done with Maya and wants nothing to do with her for a while. She said that after she slept on it, she felt more mad than sad. She opened up and told me how Maya made her feel so guilty, saying she ruined her senior year and blamed herself for what happened by not being more careful and not locking the door. But to now find out that she did lock the door and Maya had much more control of the situation than she led Leah to believe makes her so upset. Then she told me that Maya has a drug problem with Adderall and painkillers, which she had sworn to keep secret because Maya promised she was quitting. I asked her when that drug addiction started, and Leah said she didn't know, but she caught her stealing her pills in April of 2023. That's when Maya confessed to the drug issue. Leah also believes one of her R-wordists was Maya's dealer, as he used to come to the house at night when I was working. Leah now thinks that Maya traded her for more drugs and never quit as she promised, which hurts her deeply. She also recounted that during the attack, her R-wordist said that if she didn't cooperate, they would hurt Maya, which makes her feel worse because she knows Maya wouldn't do the same for her. That was the last time we really talked about Maya, and that was a couple of weeks ago, but I know that it's really taken a toll on her. So that's why I splurge and let her get a kitten. Maya doesn't know our new address, but has tried to reach out to Leah numerous times using text-free numbers. Leah is not interested whatsoever. She's no longer with my parents. My mother-in-law, with whom I've never gotten along, has taken Maya in, paying for her college and buying her a new car just to spite me. I wish I were making this up, but she posted it on Facebook. The messed up part is that my mother-in-law knows about what happened to Leah and everything Maya did, but simply doesn't care. She thinks Maya is as much of a victim as Leah, and even called Leah to guilt trip her, using their dad as leverage, saying, quote, "Your dad would hate to see you fight and hold a grudge against your sister over a mistake." That's when I stopped talking to her and told Leah not to respond to her anymore. I'm extremely close to filing a civil lawsuit on behalf of Leah against Maya, since my mother-in-law wants to undermine my parenting and go against and hurt her other granddaughter by financing Maya's life. However, my therapist doesn't think that'll help me or Leah heal. But I'm so frustrated with that situation. I'm sorry there isn't a better conclusion. Other than that, I lost 3 people in the span of 4 years, and I'm not doing well. I'm really depressed. I lost the love of my life and both of my daughters. I still mourn the loss of my little girl. She will never be the same. And I can't be around my other daughter because I believe she's a deeply flawed, dangerous person, and I blame myself for not seeing it in time. I worry about anyone she comes across in her adult life. And then the OP makes one final edit/update that says, "I kind of want to answer some assumptions that I've been getting in my DMs and comments, but Maya has unsupervised probation, and I don't think she even has a probation officer. But don't quote me on that. She doesn't get drug tested. They allowed her unsupervised probation because her college is out of state. Secondly, the speed of how fast they were sentenced. Look, the only thing I can say that they worked fast for us, and again, there was no trial. They all pleaded guilty immediately. The illegal content involving minors case is still ongoing. I have no idea about how other systems work, but for the R-word case, it was fast for us. Thirdly, when I threw out the possibility of suing Maya on behalf of Leah, it's because I know my mother-in-law would pick up lawyer fees and expenses for Maya, and it was going to be a civil lawsuit. I haven't deeply looked into it because Leah doesn't want that right now. She just wants Maya to leave her alone. We had to recently change her number, and she deactivated her social media because Maya and her friends have been messaging her every day. Also, how does Leah have a boyfriend if she was just scared of her psychiatrist? Her boyfriend is a 15-year-old boy that she knew prior to all of this, and the psychiatrist was a middle-aged man that she felt intimidated by. People have also been messaging me and commented, can they read the victim impact statement? Leah is actually okay with me sharing it. She wants more people to know what they did to her. However, I'm going to veto it. The statement is very graphic and in detail. I know these posts are triggering as is, and I just don't want to share it. They were very horrible to my little girl. And now let's get into the comments about this entire Reddit thread. One person says, every update I hate Maya more and more. I hope karma is real and she gets everything she deserves. And someone replies to that and says, the drug addiction really explains everything. I know a lot of us were thinking maybe Maya was trying to join a gang. No, she sold her sister for more drugs. That context might be enough for OP to go back to the detective and report it, because Maya may be able to be tailed by them to find out who's dealing. It may be the only way to make Maya actually pay for what she did. And another person says, Maya is really just a bad person. There's no other way to describe her cruelty, apathy, and lack of compassion towards her own family. And this is the last update we have ever received from the OP. And I just have to say, I really hope that the OP and the OP's youngest daughter are doing better now. And Maya rots in prison for a very long time. She is a monster. And I hope that the OP and the OP's youngest daughter can make it through this horrific stage in their life. And yeah, just like I said, I hope they're able to move on, and I hope they're doing better now. Dad came to my